We are back with another live episode of Bully Ball on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Jason Aponte, joined by Steph Sanchez. Steph, hair's looking immaculate. Had a few days off. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. What's funny? You always start the show by saying something about my hair. Even if when I have a hat on, you're like, no hair
No
today.
hair today?
Uh, but I thought it was funny because my brother, who sometimes listens to the show, he's like, that Jason guy is just obsessed with your hair.
Jimmy Garoppolo? Oh man, isn't he supposed to be busy? Worrying about his concussion protocol and stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
I
For
think
those that don't know, my brother looks a lot like Jimmy
a
Garoppolo.
lot
So
like Jimmy. A lot
a
like
lot.
Jimmy. That's an insane problem to have. But no, I mean it's a running bit. At this
It is.
point.
That's why I told him. I was like, I think that's
It's
our
just a
thing
running
now.
joke, and it's the easiest way to start the show. If the vibes seem a little bit like, hey, things are cool, is because the 49ers played on Thursday. And, we as 49er fans got to watch other teams suffer this weekend in terms of like, well, is your team going to win? Did your team lose? Hello, Dallas Cowboys. Um, so, Steph, before we get into the football stuff, the Thursday night football game has drawn a lot of criticism in terms of like, well, you got an early turnaround, all that stuff. But I got to tell you, having like basically like Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, like just so we could like watch football, I sign me up for that. Sign me up for
It was
that all the time.
immaculate. It was immaculate. Honestly, I think it helps when your team wins
Of course.
because, like, had they lost, then we'd have this mood going into the weekend, and it wouldn't have been pretty. But I think it's great if your team could win on Thursday. You feel great about it. You can just hang out, touch grass, as I always say, and just enjoy football. Like, I probably checked my fantasy team like over 100 times, throughout the weekend, and it was great because I had the time to do it, and it's a lot of fun. I did nothing but sit on the couch and enjoy football on Sunday.
Literally what Kyle Shanahan said he wanted to do. And I was just like, oh
He
man,
just
he's
like
just like me. Yep. I mean, the other thing is too, is I think the process in which I watch football, the 49ers is, I've got my notepad. I always try to write things down so I can go back and remember and
mhm,
understand, like
it's
those type of
work.
things.
We're
And I'm always on
working.
edge.
People don't realize that. Like, we
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
job,
like
not
we're not
just
just watching, like, and then we're trying to tweet, we're trying to
yeah.
answer people, we're watching, we're writing, all that stuff, like, and then boom, you gotta like go right in after like post game show, all that stuff. For me, I have to write, for Niners Nation. So like all that stuff, like game days are stressful because obviously you want the team to win, but we're not just like sitting around like not doing anything. We're trying our best to make sure we have all our talking points in order, all that stuff. But speaking of the game on Thursday, Steph, the discourse around this game has been interesting to say the least. A lot of people using the early parts of the game to confirm some sort of prior that they have about Brock Purdy. I want to say as the game went along, Brock Purdy looked good, as it went along,
Yeah.
and it always kind of just as we talked about, it never feels like it's getting away from him, even when things aren't like looking as perfect, right? It never just feels like it's getting away from him. But Steph, what were some of your impressions of Brock Purdy on Thursday?
Yeah. So about that. I look, Jay, like I've noticed that you don't really live tweet games anymore. And for those that don't know what live tweeting is, basically like
Because
you're
it's because I'm trying to avoid putting my foot in my mouth.
so exactly. So so exactly. So live tweeting is basically if you're tweeting about a certain event as it's happening, in this case, the game. I am a chronic like live tweeter, especially when it comes to 49ers games. And the issue with that is live tweeting Steph is not half as level headed as normal Steph, the
Mhm.
Steph that here on Bully Ball and in my podcast and all that. I'm pretty reactionary, and that just comes from being like a fan. I think at the end of the day, that's what we are, and it comes out sometimes, and so I say things in the moment that don't always turn out to be true by the end of the game, and then you get people in your mentions who will want to jump you in the mentions. So that's kind of what happened with me. And so, like you said, you don't live tweet games anymore because you don't want to put your foot in your mouth. I kind of did that on Thursday night talking about Brock Purdy, and I wasn't like it wasn't anything egregious or anything. I just said there's going to be a lot of teaching tape for Brock after this game, and I tweeted that after the the ball that got batted in the air. He was targeting Deebo, and then miraculously it landed like right where Ronnie Bell could get it. And so I think that there were people who said much, I guess, like worse things than that.
Mhm.
And I was close. Let me tell you, when I was close, and I'm glad that I waited. But so that's just the nature of it, right? In the moment, and I think it was valid to say some of those things in the moment because certainly it was true. But by the end of the game, Brock Purdy shut us all up, and I am so happy that he did. In no way was I trying to confirm a prior either, because I love Brock, and I think I've always been a fan of Brock since he became the starter. And I want him to succeed, obviously. So I'm glad that he was able to turn it around. I think what was disappointing for that, first quarter or so was that I thought he had those throws and he was just missing them. And, credit to the Giants because they were making it tough on him early. I don't think the 49ers really expected the Giants to blitz that much in this game. I mean, it ended up being a historic amount that they did it. And so I think that probably caused some of that. Brock Purdy, by all accounts, like, him only getting sacked twice. I know it was the first sack of the season for the Giants, the two first sacks of the season. So I was disappointed about it. But when you look at the entire game and you think, wow, they blitzed nearly 85% of the time and he only got sacked twice, like that's actually pretty good. And you know why? Because he adjusted and he was getting the ball out really quickly. So I do got to give credit where it's due. He started the game really slow. He was off to start, but I think as the game went on, as you said, he just got better and better. And, I think what we saw was he can learn on the fly. Sometimes for some quarterbacks, you wait till after the game and you're like, yeah, so this is what you did. And like, all this. Brock Purdy can look at these things in game. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan was, talking to him on the sideline as well. And he can make the changes on the fly in the game. And I think that's what we saw as the game progressed is he started cooking the Giants on those blitzes because by the end of it, he knew what to do with it. So I give credit to Brock. I give credit to the Giants defense for, at least the start of the game. They were giving a pretty good effort. But, I came away more impressed with Brock. And I know that Kyle said after the game, he was even more impressed after watching the film. Like, I kind of agree with that because I want to say something crazy. And it's going to sound very silly. But I do think sometimes, not all the time, but I do think there are some times when Brock does throw slightly behind his receiver. I do think, okay, one, Brock does a good job sometimes of protecting the football, but also protecting his receivers. Jay, how many times did you see Jimmy Garoppolo throw a hospital ball on Sunday night?
Well, to be
He lost
fair,
count.
I was watching in a bar and I was really intoxicated, so I don't know, maybe like 5.
Oh.
I don't know yet.
Well, I've already seen Devontae Adams and Myers get shaken up quite a bit. But anyway, my point is that I think Brock Purdy sometimes does put the ball in spots to protect not just the football, but his receivers.
Mhm.
So sometimes that may cause some of what we would deem inaccurate passes. Not all the time. I'm not saying that he throws inaccurate passes on purpose because that's just stupid. But I think sometimes there is a purpose to that. Also, what was with all the low snaps? Like, did you notice that there were a number of low snaps? That certainly doesn't help in a game where you're being blitzed and you got to make like very quick decisions and throws. I hope that gets cleaned up. But, Brendel, I'm looking at you, buddy.
Yeah, and that's what's funny about it is I think he was dinged for the game by PFF about that. If you look at his grade a little bit,
Oh,
like I
Brendel?
think that they were kind of dinging him for that a little
Yeah.
bit. But all right, your first point about the live tweeting thing. When you look at the timestamp of what something is sent, it doesn't mean that you need to attempt to dunk on it unless it's something that's final. Like if Steph's tweeting in the first quarter, Brock is going to have the worst game of his career today, right now, okay. But if Steph is objectively telling you, hey, Brock's missing some throws, he looks a little shaky right now, I think that was fair. That's absolutely fair. It's gotten to a point where almost like you can't even suggest anything poor about Brock Purdy at all, right? Like nothing. That's one. Two, As the game went on, I think the Giants' biggest mistake was that they just kept blitzing. And when you know it's coming, okay, Kyle's watching all of this on the sideline as well too. So call things that are, you got to get the ball out on time. Move, throw the ball here, throw it there. If they start to mug 6 on the line, drop 2. Like why are you sending 6 every single time? Credit to the Giants, and the thing that I think that they did that I am sure other teams are going to try to duplicate for a certain amount of plays. They're not going to blitz as much as that, is press coverage, with man, but also no Brandon Ayuk. I think that was something that's a little bit lost in the sauce, is that like Brandon Ayuk can beat any man defender. We love Deebo Samuel. He had a great game, but they were having trouble separating. There was a lot of separation issues, especially when I watched the film again. Mm-hmm. But the Giants, what would have helped them would to have confused a little bit more. Show the 6, drop 2. Like instead of just sending 6. Now look, you're going to get pressure. You're going to not allow the 49ers to take shots downfield, right? Like you're trying to protect against that. But you're sending 6, and then you're going to ask one guy to cover Christian McCaffrey in the flat on a throw. Or the same thing with Deebo, like when they throw the screen to him. Like that was the game plan. That was like the part of it that it's like, okay, you can blitz all you want. Now we know that you're going to be blitzing because they blitzed. I think literally 5 dropbacks were not blitzed. If you're not mixing it up, then you're not going to confuse, right? So other teams, they might be able to get more pressure with 4. Sometimes they'll blitz with 6. But I for sure believe that teams are going to look at this and say, well, look at how he performed in the first quarter. Maybe we should try to duplicate this a little bit, especially putting pressure on the right side and seeing how those guys react to it. Because Spencer Burford got dinged for pass blocking, I believe, like 28.1 again, like in his with his PFF grade. So, yeah, look. He went on and he got better, because if you continue to do the same thing over and over, Kyle and Brock are going to figure it out, and they've got beaters for everything. How you keep them at bay is by keeping them off balance and not like doing this over and over. Like as you saw later and later in the game, those blitzes were far and far less effective because they knew it was coming. They're getting the ball out. And credit to Brock, man. The throw to Ronnie Bell, the throw to Christian McCaffrey, that was an incompletion. That throw to Deebo Samuel. Those are big boy throws. Those are big boy throws, man. And that's what you want to see, because Philadelphia's got a hell of a front line. So does the Dallas Cowboys. They lost to the Cardinals, but still, like those are the teams that you're looking at. You're like, man, if they can somewhat duplicate that, they have a chance to really try to hold this offense at bay. But Steph, the funniest thing is this: having said all of that, having said everything about this shaky first quarter, first half, whatever it is that you want to call it, 30 points again. 30 points again. And it's not for you to, be overconfident or say, hey, is this the floor? And look at this throw to Deebo. It's incredible, man. It's not to say, oh, this is the floor, but the 49ers can get 30 regardless, right? If they're playing their best game, they can get 70. No, that's Miami only, right? But that's the point. That's the thing that I walked away with the most. No Brandon Ayuk. Oh, yeah, George Kittle guy's pretty good. Deebo Samuel's really good. Christian McCaffrey's really good. And Brock Purdy's still 30 points. 30 points, 3 straight weeks. It's hard to look at this team right now and not say that they can do whatever they want offensively. And when the defense is playing that well, I'm sure we're going to talk about that. How do you beat this team unless they beat themselves? And we have to start now after 3 games. I feel like I don't know anything about this team that I didn't already know in the offseason, and we're going to find out in 2 weeks. I hate to look past the Cardinals. Steph and I can. The 49ers won't.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think we're going to learn. We're going to learn much more about this team when they face Dallas, when they face the Bengals, when they face the Ravens, when they face, the Eagles. That's when you'll learn about this team. I don't learn anything by them beating the New York Giants or beating the Steelers or the Rams. Those are teams that I expect them to beat.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but like I would say like we are still learning a bit about this team, and I do know that people say like, they've evaded the slow start, like they've scored 30 points. I would argue, and I've said this in my podcast as well, I think you can argue that they are starting slow. And yet they're still winning and they're still scoring 30 points. So they're figuring things out. They're leaving points on the field. Like we've seen that. So they are starting slow. They got penalties too. I think they're still in the bottom 10 in like penalties. They're still winning games and they're still scoring 30 points. So yeah, I think like the biggest takeaway for me is that they don't need to be perfect. Certainly it helps the opponents that you've been going up against thus far have been, pretty weak teams. So that helps as you figure things out, you can still win some games. But I think we're seeing that this team can beat you in a variety of different ways. And you mentioned that, Jay, that they have beaters for everything, and they really do. And I think also it's a testament to the personnel that they have, especially on offense, that it is a Swiss Army knife. You can do whatever you need to do with the types of players that they have. And I think with Brock Purdy operating the offense the way that he is too, anything they could really do anything that they need to or want to, because of who they have on offense. So I think that's what we're seeing through these like first few games, and they will clean up some of those things as the season progresses. And so yeah, I mean, I think the sky's the limit. In my opinion, they look like the best team in the NFC. I don't care that the Eagles won yesterday too. They're also one of the undefeated teams in the NFC, but the 49ers have looked more consistent. And they just simply look better than any other team in the NFC right now. So that's with them not being perfect. That's with them really not rolling like we expect them to, and yet they're still rolling like we expect them to, if that makes sense.
No, there's definitely room for growth on the offense, which is scary, right? Like you still would like to see George Kittle get involved when Brandon Ayuk's there. But again, Brandon Ayuk's not there. And this team typically, for 49er fans, it's been a trend with Kyle Shanahan. They take off at the end of the year. They really get it together, and they start to get it together at the end of the year. And it's something that you have to look at and say, this is more of a trend than just the way that they are. Now, health is going to be paramount, obviously, but yeah, I think it's very fair to say that they still are not clicking on all cylinders, and yet 30 points. The defense is playing well as well, too. But credit the New York Giants. This is an incredibly personal game for me. I needed this one. Me, as an East Coast 49er fan, I needed this one very badly. You don't know what it's like to walk into the sports bar Sunday,
You were in the
wearing your Niners
trenches, man. You
gear,
were in the
yeah,
trenches.
and you're just looking at everybody like, and it's almost like that scene. Like I ran into a Giants fan friend of mine, and it's like that scene from Sorry to Bother You, where he's like, "I hope you have a better week." I was like, "I hope your month is spectacular." Like we're still like we're still arguing, but it's just like, hey man, my team took care of business. I get to relax, and the hated Giants, which MetLife is like right there out my window. So big win, definitely needed that, so I could walk the streets, strut a little bit. Giants fans are actually. I want to say this. Giant fans are actually taking it well because I did the SB Nation Giants pod on Big Blue View, and a shout out to Ed Valentine, by the way, too. He said, well, any Giants fan that's really, really invested in the team would look at these first three games and say, Dallas Cardinals, 49ers, we're probably going to be 1-2. And they are. And I think if Giant fans are panicked, they're panicked in the fashion that they lost to the Cowboys. But 1-2, that's probably realistic for them. They took care of business with the Cardinals. So they're not like exactly like jumping out the window. I think they've got a good handle on it, and they kind of feel like, hey, we thought we were going to be 1-2. Now it's time. We've got to win games. And by the way, I'm the biggest Giants fan in the world because Monday they play the Seattle Seahawks. So let's go, G-Men. Figure it out, Big Blue, and hopefully Saquon's back. But I wanted to talk about the defense, and I think that it starts up front with the defensive line. Hello, Nick Bosa. I think we could have, we weren't going out on a limb saying that Bosa was going to get into the stat sheet, this week, especially when you have the misses with the offensive line and who's going to be not playing. Javon Hargrave's a baller. Steph, am I going a little too far? But Javon Kinlaw's hooping, and I don't think people want to say that they're watching him hoop. He's hooping.
You're not going too far to say that.
21 snaps, I believe, and he had 5 pressures.
Yeah.
Steph, Javon Kinlaw, did we write him off or call him and he didn't call back? Whatever it is, write him and he didn't write back. Whatever Geno Smith said.
Look, I think he's obviously outperforming expectations because I don't think we wrote him off. I just think like to protect ourselves,
Yeah.
like we didn't have any expectations for him. And I think it was fair based on like what he had done in his career to this point. Of course, you're always hopeful that he's going to be able to turn it around. You hear every single offseason, he's in the best shape of his life. Oh, like he's done this, he shed all this weight and all that. You hear that like every off season, and after a while, like it became like, okay, well, we got to see it. We've been seeing it through these first 3 games, and we're gonna knock on wood if you have it near you, right? But that we hope that this is going to continue. But I think the fact that he's in a reserved role, he's a part of this rotation. The 49ers aren't exactly depending on him to be, this guy that's a star player or anything like that. He's just coming in on, as you said, like 19, 21 snaps, whatever it was. And he pretty much just has to rush the passer. That's what he's been doing. And he's been doing that really well. So yeah, to me, it's a bonus. It's a bonus. If you could get anything out of Javon Kinlaw like you are right this defense, especially on those obvious passing downs.
Yeah, maybe the secret sauce was situationally like using
Yeah.
him, right? And it's funny because what we knew him for was occupying blocks, being a great run defender, but now he's in his bag as a pass rusher, man. And I think again, when you don't have to send multiple people on the defensive line at the quarterback, and you can just use guys in a rotation, and you could put Nick Bosa on the sideline and give Armstead a breather, and you could still continue to get that sort of pressure. It's just an absolute bonus, and it's great to see him performing well because it's the first time that he's been fully healthy this way. It's just been fun, and I think I just want it to continue. Knock on wood. Let's let it continue.
That didn't
Um,
sound like wood, but all right.
yeah, but that's always kind of been the concern. It's just that he hasn't been on the field. So now that the expectations have been stripped of the number 9 overall pick, and he's a rotational defensive guy, maybe the expectations and the thought about him now has put him in a place where he's comfortable. But Javon Hargrave's great. So is Eric Armstead. Both of them multiple pressures. Nick Bosa. Well, I believe Daniel Bellinger is the tight end for the Giants. Daniel, if you see 97 in front of you, you might want to get a hand on that guy. Like letting him run right by you might not be the way to protect Daniel Jones. Just saying. Just saying. I
Well,
couldn't believe
easier
that.
said than done. I don't know why they're putting the
No, no,
tight
no. I
end
mean, he
on
looks
him anyway.
surprised. Like, oh, who's this 97 guy? Oh, he's running past me, and he like barely touched him. I'm like, all right, man. Like, let's get your head on the swivel here. Where's 97? But overall, Matt Breida scores a touchdown. Revenge game, Matt Breida. Of course, the only narrative that matters is
Sure.
revenge games.
Sure, man. I'll let him have it.
But overall, I think, and this is the way we'll pivot to the Cardinals game, is you look at the talent discrepancy on that side and you say, well, the 49ers should easily win this. Well, this game was a dogfight for a large portion of it. And eventually the 49ers will get away, because of the roster that they have and, and the talent and the coaching and the play calling. But it seems like Dallas did the same exact thing this past week with the Cardinals, where they were just like, oh, well, we got this, even though they were missing linemen. They obviously lost Trevon Diggs, which is horrible. I hate that because, well, one, I love to see teams at full strength, and I always want them to be at their best. But two, it kind of gives the Cowboys a built-in excuse for like if they lose in week 5, and oh well, Diggs is out. It's just like man, I hate that part too. But did it feel like the Cowboys? Can we learn something from the Cowboys and the Cardinals, and like why there's no way to look past people, even if you are much better talent wise?
Look, I'll say this. Like, I do feel like it was, for more reasons than one, it was great that the Cardinals beat the Cowboys. For the obvious reason, that's number one. But two is because I don't think the 49ers really have an excuse to go into this game and say, oh, well, we just didn't know that the Cardinals were going to play us this hard. Through
Right.
these first 3 games of the season, like the Cardinals have been playing some really good football. So credit to, what they've been doing over there. I forget, like, who's their coach, Gannon, or what's his name?
Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah. So I wrote him off early, and I was like,
They're
they're
not
going to
tanking.
suck. Yeah, they're not tanking. Which say what you want about that. Maybe they should be, but I mean, they've been playing hard and it's admirable. And I think they're putting their best effort out there. Clearly, they're not one of the best um rosters in the league, and so like I think that's why a lot of people thought they were going to be really bad this year. Also going in with a first year head coach, but they're giving it their all. And I think the one positive too is they gave it their all against the Cowboys, and they're probably feeling really good about themselves. Maybe they'll let up just a little bit against the 49ers. I don't know. That's my hope. That's my hope. But no, the 49ers can't go into that game thinking um that they're just gonna stroll right past the Cardinals. I think it's a divisional game. It's gonna be tough. So I think the 49ers know what's ahead of them. And you can't just be looking ahead at that Cowboys game in week 5. Me and Jay can do that. The 49ers cannot,
Oh,
because
I
it
totally am.
is it is a week by week thing in the NFL, and you have to execute or someone's going to beat you, right? So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. You were mentioning that other teams may want to start to blitz more against the 49ers. The Cardinals don't blitz a whole lot. In fact, I think they blitz the least out of any team, but they are very successful when they do it. And they have a 60% pressure rate when blitzing. That's second in the NFL. So I kind of wonder if they will dial it up a little bit more in this game, to try to give Brock some problems. The one positive, though, that I think we can take from this, they haven't been so great at tackling. They've given up 299 yards after first contact. And Jay, tell me who's the best, yak team in the NFL.
The 49ers?
Bingo. Yeah, you won. But yeah, obviously it's the 49ers. And after what we saw Deebo do this past week on Thursday, they're going to see a lot of that, right? And let's not forget Christian McCaffrey as well. Like, all these guys can get yards after the catch, after first contact. So what was that face for?
No, we forgot. We forgot. The national nightmare's over, Steph. Christian McCaffrey came off the field against the New York Giants. Oh my God, guys. It almost is like that was just a 1-week thing, and they needed him in that
Well,
Rams game. And anyone could have seen that Christian McCaffrey finally came off, and he got 10 days off. I hope he took a bunch of naps. I hope he got tucked in. I hope he's been resting. But the national nightmare's over, Steph. Christian McCaffrey came off the field. It almost felt like it was right there for you the entire time, and not to freak out over a 1-week thing, man. But yeah, I had to get that back in there because it's just funny. Yeah, it's just so funny to me, man. It's just you got to see
No,
Elijah
I
Mitchell,
mean,
Jordan Mason played. What more do you want? What else? That's
what do
it.
you
It's
want?
done.
There you go.
And when you needed those plays, he was still there, and he's still dominant. So relax,
Hmm.
everybody.
Yeah.
Good.
But I guess like that does bring into question. We were just talking about Deebo, right? I mean, he's dealing with that rib injury. The 49ers had a bonus practice yesterday since, they had a mini bye. Basically, they could practice one extra day. And Brandon Ayuk was out there, so that's good. He's on track to play. Deebo Samuel was not, though. He's still dealing with that rib injury that he sustained. Of course, he did come back to the game Thursday night, and he had his touchdown after that injury. When he was down on the field for a bit. So maybe that's a good sign. I don't know, but hopefully they'll have Deebo Samuel out there, because I think in this game you're gonna want him.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't want to look past the Cardinals, but you have to start to take calculated risks. Can we win this game without him against the Cardinals? Do we need him for Dallas more, right? Because it sounds like Brandon Ayuk would have been able to go on Thursday if the game was on Sunday. So he'll be back as well, too. Yeah, I mean, Deebo was incredible in this game on Thursday, man. And it's wild to me that like you watch how Deebo gets the ball, and it's almost the same exact way, whether it be a handoff or just like a tunnel screen or just like a short slant. And it's like the defense always looks so surprised, like they can't do anything with it and they can't tackle him. And it's like over and over they do it the same exact way. And he's just such a special player with the ball in his hands that he's able to run through everybody and do all of these special things with the ball, man. Like it's funny to me because like the defense always looks like a tunnel screen to Deebo Samuel. Well, who could have seen that coming? Or like, wait a minute, why are we trying? Like, it's right there in front of you the whole time. But you do have to start taking calculated risks when it comes to this game. Like, do you say, hey, listen, Deebo, maybe not this week? If that's the case, they do have extra time. They do have a lot of extra time. They are game planning right now, though, because it is Tuesday. They're getting ready for that as well, too. But we kind of saw in this game, too, like maybe a little bit more George Kittle's okay, and he's still pretty good as well. I think one of Brock's best throws was the throw to Kittle on the sideline, that layered throw in between two guys. It's just and Daryl, 49er for life, Smock says the Cowgirls just suck plain and simple. I'm glad they lost. I think we all are. I think America won. Actually, when they lost to the Cardinals, it was pretty funny.
That's really why they're called America's team, because anytime they lose, America loves it.
America wins when the Dallas Cowboys lose, 100%. I'm looking so far, like I'm looking forward to that week so far that I've already like started making content for that week with like the film from the divisional game. Like
Jesus Christ, man.
I know. I mean, I'm gonna do the Cardinals this week for sure. But I'm just juiced about that game, and I've been able to like, pull some stuff from the divisional game that was successful for the Niners. That and I'm gonna but that's the big game. That's the one that I'm looking for. But look, with this Cardinals game, you can bet the 49ers are not looking past them. They're a divisional game. We've seen times where there's been letdowns against Arizona. Hello, Colt McCoy. That was a game that I always look back at, and I'm just like, my God, what the hell just happened? And yeah, Dobbs is mobile. He runs a little bit as well, too. We didn't see that from Daniel Jones, though. So,
okay. So, Jay, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Because we were talking about Javon Kinlaw earlier, and I was like, they had him out there as like a fifth defensive lineman for some of those snaps. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt like, that was to add like extra pressure to Daniel Jones. He's not very good against pressure, but also I thought it was because to help seal any rushing lanes that Daniel Jones may find and run through, because he's known for that too. So I wonder, do you think that we see it more often? I know it was situational, but in this game against Dobbs, we mentioned that he could also run, and sometimes they even do design runs with him. Do you think that maybe we see Kinlaw again in that like fifth defensive lineman situation again?
Well, I think that's something that they've been trying out, because they ran it a little in Pittsburgh, and Kenny Pickett wasn't running. I think that's just one of the looks that they want to give the 5 down linemen. So, I mean, it could be for that, but Daniel Jones didn't really do too much with his legs. So I think for the concern, and Rob is letting us know, says that according to Bosa, Kinlaw was asking to be the 5th lineman all week. I mean, it's just when he's playing well and you can get him situationally in there, because I think he only played like 21 snaps, if I'm not mistaken. It's a look that they've been giving. So I'm not sure that it necessarily was like game plan specific towards Daniel Jones, because they've been showing it a little bit more and more throughout the 3 weeks. So, but yeah, Dobbs can run, he can move. And the Cardinals actually ran the football all over the Dallas Cowboys this week. That was a little bit shocking. James Conner.
That's why I'm looking at week 5.
Yeah, and that's if you're having a problem slowing that down, and Michael Parsons is a hooper. Like, if you're having problems slowing that down and you're able to combat the pass rush with running the football in that fashion, it might be a long day for the Dallas Cowboys. And Dak threw one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in the red zone. Like, I literally have no idea what he was looking at. Like, sometimes you look and you say, okay, they disguised it really well, or this or that. It was just like, did you meant to throw it to the Cardinal, right? Like that's what was the play. That was the play call. Like, so I think, again, and we're looking past and we're talking about the Cowboys. It's like, if you're able to run the ball and you're able to capitalize on those 1 or 2 Dak throws that you're just like, what on earth were you looking at? Then you should be good. But as far as the Cardinals, I was really shocked with the way that they were able to run the ball. One thing that they kind of added that was a little bit of a nice wrinkle, and I bet you could see a little bit, you'll probably see a little bit more of, was Rondale Moore was actually at running back, and he's the one who had that big long run, like 45 yards.
Yeah, he's fast.
Yeah, like he's a good receiver, like, but maybe they found something with him where they can use him situationally like that too to cause problems, because he scooted right through that hole and went right past everybody. I think, that he might be a speed element with Connor, maybe something that they use him for like maybe 2 to 3 carries a game. 49ers now 14-point favorites over the Cardinals. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was close to what Dallas was favored by. And the game's in Arizona, right? Is it in Arizona or is it at
I think
Levi's? It's at
no, it's at Levi's.
it's at Levi's. So they got three
Yeah.
straight at Levi's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Okay, nice little homestand. Okay. All right. Well, look, 14 points at home. That sounds right. As a betting man, I don't do the spread. I'm good on that. I just do money line, and I foolishly throw my money away on parlays. Um, but yeah, that feels right with the discrepancy in talent, right? Like, and especially if everybody's going to be healthy, that feels like that's a likely outcome. 14 points. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really do point predictions and things like that. Although my score prediction last week was pretty freaking close. I said it
Nice,
would be 30-13 and it
nice.
was 30-12. So
Give
credit
me the lottery
credit to
numbers.
me. The one time that I get close, I'm like, pounding my chest over here. But yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, the fact that it's like a divisional game, the 49ers in the past have had like kind of these like low scoring games against the Cardinals. So I think we kind of see that. They're going to play them tough. So yeah, I think that's probably fine. Um one thing I wanted to point out, going back to Dobbs really quick, is I think as far as like quarterbacks go, and this is going to sound silly because we're talking about Dobbs here, but I think the 49ers defense maybe going to meet their match here because he's good under pressure. Um, I'm looking at PFF right now. His passer rating clean is 94.3 and under pressure is 107.3. So like he's even better than Brock under pressure. And that's going to be tough, right? So I don't know what the game plan is going to be for the 49ers defensively. Uh, but it's going to be tough to, beat the Cardinals based on what they're doing. And also, what is it? Zaven Collins has been a problem on defense for other teams, and he got hurt in that game against the Cowboys, but he was wrecking stuff before that. So if he's available on Sunday, which I would expect he would be, I think it was just something with his eye in that game. He's going to give the 49ers offensive line problems, I think.
Yeah, and the best thing about this game is the 49ers don't have to necessarily put forth their best effort. And I think a little bit of what you were seeing in the Giants game was Kyle not putting the best stuff that he has on film, knowing that he can get away with what he can against the Giants. And I think he's kind of saving that for either later in the year or for bigger games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that's there for them as well too. I'm not saying that it's hard to like get excited about this game or anything like that. It's just I fully expect the 49ers to win this game.
Yeah,
And
should.
again, if they're the team that we believe they are, then they should. And I'm going to keep saying that every week against teams that, but this is the NFL. There are slip ups, and there's times when, things like this happen. Obviously nobody would have seen the Dallas Cowboys losing to the Cardinals. The Indianapolis Colts with Gardner Minshew, they go and they beat Baltimore. It's the NFL, right? Like, guys prepare, those guys get paid too. There's game plans, there's things like that. Things can happen during the game. It's all there. But, conventional wisdom would say the 49ers are going to, dominate in this game. And whatever the defensive game plan is, I love how they throw in Talanoa Hufanga getting an interception off of a bounce. I don't know, Steph, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know of another player who's just always in the right spot when the ball's like in the air. Like and it's always to him. It's always to him. Like, he could literally
He's
be 20
lurking,
yards away.
man.
Yeah, the 20 yards away, the ball's up in the air, and he's just like, oh, I got it. Here I come. It's like, man, what the hell are in those gloves? A magnet?
He be lurking, man. It's not just that he's getting lucky, like, oh, he's just in the vicinity of the ball. Like, I think he's putting himself in those spots, right?
Right.
So it is a bit of luck, probably. When balls get batted up in the air, what have you. Sometimes you get a lucky little bounce or whatever. And it goes your way. And in this case, it goes to Hufanga's way quite often. But, I think also it's a mixture of him being in the right spots at the right time, too. But yeah, Rob put this little stat in the chat here. He said that a win Sunday would give the 49ers 3 NFC wins and 2 wins in the NFC West. And, you talk about, Jay, the fact that the 49ers, if they're the team that we expect them to be, they're going to win this game. Yeah, I mean, like, you have to win these games, divisional games and conference games, because they mean so much in the grander scheme of things. And I think because they started so slow last year and because they probably feel like there were some games they dropped early, I think they're more focused than ever, and they know how important these games are. When it comes to seeding, later in the season, and so it's week 3, but it's never too early to start thinking about those things. So I think the 49ers know what's at hand here, and yeah, I think they're gonna win this game.
100%. And you know what? I'll probably save that for the end of the show for like a little bit of a funny thing. I'll save that part.
Okay.
What I wanted to ask is this: John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are going to be here for a long time.
Why is
Mm.
that?
Ah, funny, huh? And you know what's funny about it is the larger discussion about who makes what draft picks.
Mm.
And well, that's a Lynch pick. Well, that's a Peters pick. Well, that's a Kyle pick. But yet, like, aside from like the obvious ones, we don't really know like who's doing what, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just find it funny that like whenever the 49ers find like a 5th rounder or like a 6th rounder, they're like, that's Adam Peters working. Oh, it's Adam Peters. And I'm just like, is it? Like, are we sure? Are we sure? Because I know for a fact who's who's an Adam Peters pick, Ambry Thomas. That's an Adam Peters pick. That one's not looking so good. Like it's just funny, right? So the extension comes out and then everybody's like, well, why? Why now? Why? You win 13 games, you build like this incredible roster, you have a ton of cap space. And let's not, put the fact that Jed York has probably learned his lesson about sending off great leadership because you haven't won the Super Bowl. So, Steph, I'm going to ask you, is this premature because they haven't gotten the Lombardi, or are you just happy to get this done because it's like they're already built something that's really moving in the right direction?
It's not premature. And for the people who say that, I think that's kind of silly because I think what Jed is saying with this, it's a vote of confidence for sure that Kyle and John give you the best chance to win a Super Bowl, for however long they're going to be here, right? And so I think he truly believes that. I believe that. And so you look at other coaches that are available out there, it's slim pickings, right? And you see coaches who, were maybe good as coordinators and things like that. And sometimes, they don't always pan out when they become head coaches. So it's really just you're rolling the dice anytime you hire a new head coach, kind of. And I think, the 49ers kind of hit the lottery getting Kyle Shanahan, and you got to keep rolling that dice because so far, like you're winning. You're winning with it. So yeah, obviously the goal is to get a Lombardi, and it's not Jed being like complacent or anything like that. It's Jed saying these guys give this team the best chance to get there, and I think based on what we've seen, that's fair to say.
Yeah, 100%. Again, when you win that many games, you win that many playoff games, you get to stay. And when you've built what you've built, and you have eyes on the future as well too, with cap space and everything as well too, it does feel like, hey, finish the job, but we have this vote of confidence in you, and who can argue with that, honestly? So I'm really glad that that's done. And it's something I didn't expect. Not something that I thought wouldn't happen, by the way, either. But I think, there's this whole discussion of like, well, are they going to move? Are they going to lose Peters? That's probably a possibility, right? Like at this point, right? Like now he's gonna be a hot name as a general manager. Do they promote Lynch? All those things. But at the same time, it's like, for every time that you look at a pick and you're just like, hey, that didn't work out, when you look at all the other moves in terms of who they get later on in the draft or who they get as free agents, you really can't argue with it. A lot of teams would die to be in the 49ers position right now with this many skill players and this much money and goody, we get to scout first round picks again, maybe, right? Like unbelievable, right? We don't got to wait for the 3rd round anymore.
Finally.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything's kind of right. All is right in the world right now. Like I got to say it again, Steph. When's the dagger coming? Who's going to pull the rug out from under? Like things are just going too well right now. And
you remember like what we were saying before the season started and before like Bosa got his deal, we were like,
the vibes were off.
The vibes are off. Something is afoot. Something ain't right.
Mm-hmm.
And really everything was fine at the end of it. But like I just think this is how it's gonna be, like let's just enjoy that things are moving in the right direction right now. It's not always going to be perfect, But I think we know that this team is good. This team is talented. They're going to continue to win games. I think based on what we've seen so far through these first 3 weeks of the season, they're going to win a lot of games this year. And so that's something to feel good about. Let's just stop looking for the bad. Let's stop waiting for the shoe to drop, right? Like, let's live in the moment, enjoy what's in front of us. And what's in front of us is a good 49ers team. So
I'm not pessimistic. I just I don't want to be caught off guard, right? Like it's almost like that scene in Baby Boy when Tyrese is sitting in the chair and Ving Rhames comes and he just grabs him up. Like that's kind of what I'm waiting for, like right now. But
so you're just cautious. You're very cautious.
Yeah. Oh, always,
optimistic.
Always. I'm looking like even if there's no cars coming, I look both ways. Like I'm not just gonna run into the street.
I mean, well, you live on the East Coast, man. You got to watch out for them cars.
Yeah, especially when you're wearing 49ers gear and he's probably a Giants one. Oh, got him again. All right, look, Steph, 45 minutes in, guys. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we all go live. Make sure you get the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio podcast. Steph, I woke up this morning and we have a group chat. It is you, I, and Rob. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you this live on air. And Rob, if you feel like you want to jump in, please jump in. I've been accused of being the Jimmy G in this group. I don't know how this happened. Can somebody give me some backstory?
Well, the context is that the last few weeks, we will be like, hey, are we good to go at this time? Well, every Monday, we're like, are we good for bully ball tomorrow at this time? And Jay doesn't even bother to respond anymore. Like, he would just thumbs up. You don't. He just thumbs up, and Rob's like, Jay. And I was just like, he liked my text, so I guess that means he's good. So he doesn't even bother to text us anymore. He's too good for it. He's, this is George Kittle texting Jimmy Garoppolo all over again.
Rob, what do you have to say about this, man?
Look, all I know is the facts are the facts. We're recording this on September 26th. The last actual text from Jason Aponte in the group chat came from September 5th. Okay.
He brought the receipts out. See, he came prepared too.
It's been almost a month, Jay. What's up? We can't get a yes. We can't get a hell yeah. Looking forward to it. You just giving me the thumbs up like I'm some, acquaintance that you just met on the street.
Look. Brock Purdy's efficient, and I believe in efficient texting. Meaning, if I just send a reaction, that's efficient. It's more efficient than a 3-letter yes or anything like that. I'm involved. You guys matter. I care about you a lot. And I just feel like that was the easiest way to convey that I'm ready to go at the same time as Steph. And that's a thumbs up.
Well, I say 8 words, but 3 words do trick.
My God.
Please put that audio clip in there.
I woke up to the and also I told you what I was dealing with this morning as well too. So I just I had my phone on do not disturb and everything, and I just was but yeah, good God, man. I'm getting attacked by everyone.
Well, what was funny is that you brought it up
oh wow,
we were gonna get owned, and then
and then he owned me. Yeah,
you ended up getting owned.
Daryl says, Jason, you do kind of look like Jimmy G. Man,
wait, what?
I don't know. I mean, I wish. I mean, if I did, I would.
Maybe if you squint really hard.
Right.
Maybe if you're hungover.
Thanks for that. Well, I mean, for me, it's just if I did, I wouldn't be podcasting. I'd be modeling. But hey, this has been a great show, Steph. It's good to see you. It's good to have a few days off, enjoy some football, laugh at other teams' miseries. So I don't think I don't think I look like him at all. No. Look at that guy, man.
No, we were saying earlier that my brother looks like him. We don't have a picture of my brother to put up, but he does look like
her
Jimmy.
Brother definitely does, man. It's so funny. But thank you guys for tuning in early in the morning. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you, again, like and subscribe. Make sure you're getting the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to the Gold Standard YouTube network. Follow Steph on Twitter at Steph49K. Follow me on Twitter at JasonAponte2103 or X or whatever the kids are calling it these days. And make sure that you go to, I never get this one right, the Gold Standard Niners website, goldstandardniners.com. Thank you for that, Rob. And follow on Instagram and follow on Twitter. Steph, it's been great to talk to you. Cardinals week. I'm trying to get amped up for it. But I definitely have eyes on week 5. I definitely have eyes on week 5. But for Steph, for Jay, we're out of here.
Peace.